The question here is, should we look at Shedeur Sanders not being selected for any of the preseason AP All-America teams, or even PFF for that matter, or any other major outlets All-America team as a snub? And I think there's a way to look at this where you can be aggrieved if you're a Colorado fan, Shedeur Sanders fan, or you can be something like sensible. The first thing is, I don't think that Colorado fans are going to be aggrieved by this, and I think you can be sensible by saying a preseason All-America team is just that. It's a preseason All-America team. It's like my Ultimate 134. It is a starting point for what we think we know about the sport going into the season. Things change when we start playing games. I say this every single year, and I'm always curious who is listening when I'm speaking about this, because as soon as we get data, you have to change what you think based on the facts that are in front of you, not the ones that you want them to be, right? So I'm going to do a whole bunch more about Colorado as they are playing on August 29th, and that's a Thursday against number 2 FCS, North Dakota State, which is kind of a great place for this conversation to begin, because if you're talking about Shedeur Sanders, you're talking about the most popular player in college football today and the most important player on the most watched team in college football today. Does that make him a preseason All-America candidate? Not necessarily, right? The other thing to take into account here is that he's got these credentials from Jackson State, and last year was actually the first year where he wasn't one of the best players in the sport, even if he was one of the most exciting and popular players in the sport. I think that both things can be true. I also think that if you're taking a look at what Shedeur Sanders did last year, 3,200 yards passing, 31 TDs, just 3 picks, versus some of the guys that did make an All-America team, say Dylan Gabriel, who threw for 3,600 and 30 TDs, and then you got Carson Beck, 3,900, 30 TDs, and 6 picks. You're going, wait a second, 1-to-1, this dude is every bit the player, and if we're talking about interception to TD ratio, a better player than these other guys. It's also about, did you affect winning? And it's difficult to argue that Shedeur Sanders affected winning when the Colorado Buffaloes finished 4-8. Did they get off to 3-0? Yes. Was it exciting? Absolutely. Did they beat a top 25 program on the road? Yes. Texas Christian remembers, even if you don't. And then as the season progressed, we got to see more of what makes Shedeur Sanders great and just the limits of what a quarterback can do without a good offensive line. And that's what these other guys had at these other spots. They had good offensive lines. Even Jaden Daniels didn't have a great, outstanding offensive line. He had 2 outstanding tackles. You still had to move around. You still had to make things happen. I think the same thing is true of a Dylan Gabriel from time to time at Oklahoma, but not necessarily Carson Beck, because he's blessed with a great offensive line. Matter of fact, they got at least one dude in Tate Ratledge that might get drafted in the first round, and that dude plays guard. It's not usually a position that gets drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. However, I'm looking around and I'm going, there are pieces here if you're a Colorado fan. There are things to like Jordan Seaton, who could be what Kelvin Banks is at Texas, 27 straight games as a starter from day one, a true freshman starter. He is one of the best offensive linemen in football. Jordan Seaton has that ability. We know that they turned over a bunch of the offensive line. We know that Colorado feels like they have leveled up their roster from last year. I'm still in a I would like to see it place, because we have the facts before us. The facts were they finished 4-8. The facts were they gave up 52 sacks. And not only did Shedeur get sacked 50 times, the boy had his vertebrae broken. Okay? That's not okay. That's not okay. You've gotten better, I think, at wide receiver, with LaJohntay Wester being one of those guys that I'm really going to be watching along with Will Shepard. On the defensive side, we're going to have to talk at length about Preston Hodge, because he's got the capacity and the ability to be that other dude on the other side of Travis Hunter, given what he showed at Liberty. And Navarro, shout out cheer, you know what I'm saying? Also from Waxahachie, Texas. Man, I also was a long time ago, knew a woman from Waxahachie, Texas that went to Tulsa. Anyway, I think that they got enough here to make some noise. I don't know that they have enough here to win the Big 12 championship, but it's not out of reach, right? I think more than anything else, the idea that you could have a headline that reads, X quarterback got snubbed from an All-America team, when that quarterback lost twice as many games as he won as a starter last year, that in and of itself is telling you the power of that quarterback. That's what this is about. That's the reason to do this segment. We are level setting. Folks are going to watch Colorado play football. When they play on ESPN on Thursday, lots of people are going to watch that team play football. When they play Nebraska on NBC the following Saturday, lots of people are going to watch that team play football. As a matter of fact, Colt McCoy announced his retirement today, and what immediately followed in the same graph is he begins his analyst duties in the booth with Colorado, Nebraska. So you're taking one of the most popular Texas football players of all time, a quarterback, and you're also following with, we're going to put him on our marquee game of the week for college football, Big Ten. Remarkable stuff there. That is telling you what it means for Shedeur Sanders to be who he is right now, and frankly, who his father is in Deion Sanders, to say nothing of Shiloh Sanders is one of the 100 superstars in the sport because, again, the name recognition, being on that team, and the amount of energy that goes into that team, the amount of attention we pay to that team, the reason we continue to do these segments. I'm curious about what happens if they actually turn out to be great. Not good, great. Then we'll have a different discussion, right? Even so, telling you what I always say, which is I'm not there, right? And that's what it is. But I, like you, watch that team play football, and because we watch that team play football on Saturdays, I don't want to hear nothing about what we didn't see going on. I want to see results, just like everybody else. Like, put another way, Ohio State led the nation in AP All-America selections preseason this year with 6 across all teams. I think 4 on the first team. Nobody's going to want to hear what happened during practice if they drop a game to Marshall. If they drop a game at all. This is supposed to be a season for which they are going to be them. That's what we want, right? The time for criticism is about to ratchet up. It's not going to be over. It's about to ratchet up. And just like last year, if they get off to a fast start, I'm sure you're going to hear lots of good things that are being said about this program. I think you're going to hear lots of, I told you so, from people in and around who have just had their backs forever. And then we'll see what it looks like come October. Because if they are still great, 5-0, 6-0 in October, then we get to have a different conversation altogether. But again, I think the point right now is that we are talking about a quarterback who finished on a program that was 4-8, being left off a preseason All-America team, not because he wasn't good, but because the team wasn't good, and he is the most popular player in the sport. You want to talk about power? That's power.